Hello literature connoisseurs. Let's begin. Chapter 10 begins with Buck ready to leave for his flight to the conspiracy theorist's home. Dirk, who is the conspiracy theorist, lives in the UK. Both him and Buck have a contact in Scotland Yard. Buck wants to call him but is afraid it might expose their identities. We also learn Buck has a fake ID and passport that he supposedly uses for safety reasons. Using them is illegal, so it seems odd that a reporter with an unlimited bank account needs to lie about his identity. Doesn't the Bible say thou shalt not lie? Yet the Christian authors have one of their main characters lying and committing fraud. Guess the Bible's rules don't apply to them. Buck flies to London and meets with the contact named Alan. He gets described as looking shriveled. Odd that an investigator for law enforcement, in the UK no less, would look like that. We then learn that Buck met him a long time ago when he was doing a story about terrorism in the UK. The story then jumps to a phone conversation between Buck and Alan. This is gonna be a common occurrence by the authors where the characters involved are trying to hide what they are saying to each other or that they even know one another. However, the dialogue becomes choppy and unrealistic that it makes the characters sound stupid and ridiculous. One of their conversations will go something like this. Hello. I'd like to order breakfast with jam on my eggs. Excuse me. Please remember to put the fried chicken in my Coca-Cola, you forgot the last time. I don't understand you, sir. Thank you, and remember that airplanes use olive oil as jet fuel. Understood, sir. Scene changes to Rayford and he phones the church again and speaks to Pastor Bruce Barnes. Bruce is a visitation pastor, something the church I attended did not have, so I assume he visits people that are unable to leave their houses and attend church. We learn that everyone in the church, except Bruce, was taken. Rayford asks for the tape and Bruce agrees to give him one. Rayford then asks why Bruce was left behind, but he refuses to discuss that over the phone. We also learn that they will be having a church service on Sunday to play the tape and then a discussion on it. Spoiler alert: Bruce is one of the most useless characters in the series. He does nothing but try to manipulate people into joining the church by telling his story of how he was left behind over and over and over and over and over again. This becomes an interesting look into the ideals of the authors. They seem to really hate their congregation by the sinister way they portray the characters in this series that are Christian. It's like they are projecting how the Christians in their churches are uneducated idiots that behave like overgrown children and are gullible enough to believe anything told to them. While not all Christians are like this, the fact that a small demographic is portrayed this way is very telling. This may be another reason why Christians hate this series, is because of how the authors make all Christians look like straw man fallacies. Scene changes to Buck as he meets Alan, and all of a sudden Alan seems scared and tells Buck not to talk until they get to a pub that he knows of. Because the best place to discuss something private is in a public place where anyone can listen in on your conversation. Insert eye roll here. Buck orders food and drinks but Alan doesn't touch anything. Alan finally begins speaking because he was silent this whole time by saying something about pouring gas on flames. Buck then makes a curious claim about Alan fanning his flame. Odd that the Christian authors would write such suggestive language between two males. Hint, hint. The conversation turns to Dirk's suicide and how it appears as if he really did kill himself, but both men have their doubts. Alan talks about how Dirk is a conspiracy theorist that was involved in different conspiracies. A couple of these mention the number 3 as part of the title. An example is one called the Trilateral Commission. Should the Trinity Christians believe in, be added since it also involves the number 3? I believe the references here mention a concept Christians have of an unholy trinity, that mocks their belief in a triune God. Although the Bible never actually implies that their God is triune, many verses get thought of as pointing to that. But then the Bible could not be cherry-picked if it was written straightforwardly, which is how you would think a God would write a book. If a God states that killing is wrong, then if it wrote a book it should be absolute. However, the Bible is not absolute because it states it is wrong to kill, except on Arbor Days and Labor Days, and any day ending with the letter Y. Or all throughout the month of May when you can kill no matter what God says. The Illuminati and Freemasons get mentioned along with something called the Council of 10 Nations and the Council of Wise Men, as being secret organizations that are harmless but part of Dirk's conspiracy theories. Alan then states that he knows Dirk was murdered for being a conspiracy theorist. Buck starts flip-flopping his opinion again because one second he agrees with Alan then the next he disagrees. They go over 2 lame reasons why they think Dirk killed himself, then they finally mention that Dirk was left-handed but the gun was found in his right hand. Buck asks if he told his bosses about that and Alan says he kept it secret in order to keep himself and his family safe. Buck objects and eventually asks who got to him and told him to ignore the murder or face the consequences. Alan says no one said anything to him but he guesses what he believes is true. Buck threatens to write a story up about this and then Alan says he was told by someone to tell Buck to drop the story and go home. But he just said no one coerced him. So Alan then tells a story about meeting one of the main guys in Dirk's conspiracy group and the guy starts unrealistically calling Alan, Governor. The main rich guy, we are expected to believe, is talking like the stereotypical Englishman from the 1800s. It's like someone that lives in the UK has no idea how people in the UK actually talk. So the rich man calls Alan's boss and tells him that Alan is bothering him and his boss says that the rich man can kill Alan and the body will be hidden. The authors make reference to the movie titled The Untouchables. Alan gets word he left the lights on in his car and he turns them off making dumb comments that he was getting forgetful in his old age. It's very lame so it's no surprise that when Alan left, as Buck was on the phone trying to arrange a flight home, Alan dies when his car explodes. The whole thing is lame and uninteresting. This seems like another filler chapter. Buck puts his real ID and passport next to Alan's body to make it appear as if he was killed but not his friend. This endangers Alan's family since it seems Alan was targeted by the explosion. With only body found and the body supposedly identified as Buck. This will mean that their real target is still alive and they will take other measures to silence him. Of course this is a simple delay tactic because upon examination they can identify that Alan is the real body found. Buck then sneaks off to catch his flight with his fake IDs. This ends chapter 10 if you can really call it a chapter. See you next time for chapter 11.